A Better World Blueprint. Good humans doing good things.
Hello, I'm Siobhan Hunt. I work in media, so part of my job is staying across current events, which also means I'm often saturated in a wash of negative stories. Politicians behaving badly, climate destruction, you get the picture. This podcast is an antidote to all of that, because just as there are many people out there seemingly intent on sending us to hell in a handbasket, there are others quietly working away to make the world a better place. These are the people who fill me with hope, and my aim is that they do the same for you. Welcome to A Better World Blueprint. When I first met Penny, she was working as a media executive at Fairfax, highly successful, driven, and about to have her first baby. As was I. We met at a prenatal class that morphed into a mother's group that's still going strong 13 years later. In that time, I've watched Penny go through great change. She separated from her husband, bought her own unit, and moved into the for-purpose area, working with various charities. Now she's the New South Wales State Manager for the Property Industry Foundation, helping homeless young people find shelter. Penny is passionate about her work and committed to making the world a better place for young people. I hope you enjoy my chat with Penny Kaleta, New South Wales State Manager for the Property Industry Foundation. Hello, Penny, and welcome to A Better World Blueprint.
Thanks, Siobhan, and thanks for having me. Very excited.
It's my pleasure. I'm very excited to have you. What made you decide to leave that sector, to leave the media industry that you obviously enjoyed, and move to the for-purpose sector?
There's not one thing I think that I can say made me, was my decision to do it. There was a number of decisions, but I think that my career, I've always centered around building meaningful partnerships. So, in the media industry, it was always around building meaningful partnerships and then driving impact. So there was lots of things, from a personal perspective and COVID looming sort of was a real sort of time for me to reassess what I was doing. I also read a book called The Second Mountain, which I don't know if you've ever heard of that book. And, it's all around your life has two mountains, if you like. Your first mountain is about success and professional success in your career and building this status and, all your achievements. And then you sort of get to that point and go, is that it, sort of thing? And am I fulfilled? And so, the concept of the second mountain is about connection and what brings you joy and meaning. And after I read that book, I really looked at the career that I'd built myself in the media industry. And I felt this huge sense that I couldn't do any more in that industry than I'd already done. And obviously through those partnerships, realized the power of collaboration. And I just really wanted to go and give my skill set and my experience to organizations that needed that commercial lens. And for me, selfishly, I got this real sense of purpose and impact that, I woke up every day feeling like I was making a difference. And so, that would be why I did it, why I moved. And I haven't looked back.
I know you haven't. Every time we catch up, I can see that spark in your eye and the joy that you get from doing it, which is also interesting that you say selfishly, because you are making a big difference with the work that you do and the decision you made to move industries.
Yeah.
So you read this book and you started to reflect on your career and what you might do next. That is a big, wide open horizon, Penny. Yeah. How did you find the industry, the group that you're with now?
Yeah.
Or were there little stepping stones that took you there?
Yeah, definitely little stepping stones that took me there. In the media industry, there's a wonderful foundation called Unlimited, which work with the media industry and support disadvantaged youth. And so I surrounded myself with the people from Unlimited, and I became an ambassador for them and really learned the work that they did. And so, yeah, that's kind of the next step for me, was to go, okay, let me surround myself with people that are doing what I want to do, learn from them, and really, I guess, find what I want to do. Focusing very much on disadvantaged youth will always be my lane, if that makes sense, because I'm a huge advocate for prevention. I think if you work with young people and work in the prevention space, that goes on to have an enormous social and economic impact later in life. And not that, there is anything wrong with charities that are working in that space, but, I use like domestic violence as a bit of an example. Most of the charities that work in domestic violence are working in this very cure space, just making it better for the people that have experienced it. And really, for me, we educate and support young people when they're at their most vulnerable and in their vulnerable growing phases. Then you're going to educate them that they don't go on to, be domestic violence perpetrators or crime or those types of things. Or, if a young person has safety in a home, then they are less likely to go on and make, choices that have impacts on other people. So disadvantaged youth was always going to be my passion. So working with Unlimited, who work with a number of charities, and those types of things, I just listened, learned, and started, forging and fostering relationships, my own relationships and partnerships, and yeah, really looking at these grassroots charities ultimately, and really seeing a pathway to helping them with commercial decisions and strategic decisions as well. So yeah, that was the sort of stepping stone, if you like.
I know that the path that you have chosen hasn't always been easy for you, Pen, and you're a very independent woman, but you've also got two young girls. Moving into the for-purpose sector isn't always the most lucrative decision. No. Was that something that was a bit of an obstacle for you on a practical level? Obviously, you knew what you wanted to achieve, but you had the realities of raising these two girls to consider.
Yeah, it really was. And as I said earlier, the personal tie. So I became a single mum at the same time as I decided to move careers. And even today, sometimes I'll go, God, what a dumb decision. You basically halved your salary, and I always laugh. I would say I halved my salary, but I doubled my soul, which is totally how I feel. But yeah, from a single parent's practical position, I was like, what are you doing? You're a single parent raising two girls and you are halving your salary. But I kind of flipped it to sort of go, and I think I've taken this very seriously throughout my entire career, but certainly as I became a mum, I'm a role model to two young people, and they look at me every day and see what I'm doing. And so that kind of makes up, and it's that whole saying, isn't it? You've got a big house, you'll fill it. If you've got lots of money, you'll spend it. I'm a bit of a believer of that. So yes, independently, and the money is definitely, but I get up every single day and I enjoy what I do. I feel I have impact, and my girls, they learn I bring them along to projects. They see how fortunate they are. And when I say that, they are fortunate because they feel loved and safe and supported, not because we live in a big house, because we don't, but all the other things that young people need, they have that. So to me, it's a win. It's a win-win. Yes, I'm not going to Mauritius every year on my holidays, but you know what? I live in Coogee, so I can have a holiday at Coogee every week. That's great.
On a personal level, and not to harp on about this, but I'm just wondering at those moments when, as we all do at night before we go to sleep, where we have those thoughts like you just said, what the hell am I doing? I'm a single mum, I've got this. How did you manage those times? I know you had a strong base, understanding that this is where you wanted to go,
Yeah.
But how did you make it through those times when perhaps it was a little bit of a dark night of the soul because you had a lot riding on your shoulders?
Yeah. I think and it's really interesting. Whenever I tell people this, I think anyone that knows me never really believes me, but I have imposter syndrome, the same as everybody gets, right? And not everybody, but a lot of people get it. A lot of people don't talk about it. I'm very happy to talk about it. And changing careers when you're moving to an industry you're not known in, you really get those. And then there's nights where you're like, oh my god, the money side of things, and but I come back to my legacy. I did a lot of work about what you want your legacy to be, and your legacy living, and I want my legacy to be that I made a difference. I really do. And so when I'm having those moments, I've got the same as we would do with any, anxiety or anything. I just have to keep talking myself down, and bringing myself back to you are doing the right thing, and you're in the right place, and just take those times. And as with any of those sorts of emotions, breathe through it, surround myself. Sometimes I need to be quiet. My friends certainly, like you would know, sometimes I'm not up to be the meeting, or and I just need to be quiet for a while, and so I just look after myself that way.
Makes me feel quite emotional hearing that. Well, that's really what inspired this podcast is chatting with Maggie Dent and asking what it was that was driving her to do this work and make all this difference in people's lives. And she said exactly what you said. She wants, it's her legacy. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Thanks. Yeah.
It could make me want to cry. So do you think this work has changed you, Penny?
Absolutely. I think on so many levels, but I think my generosity of spirit is so much stronger. I think, we can walk around in our corporate world as, being boss bitch, being very demanding. And, what do you mean I'm not flying business class and I haven't been upgraded? Or, what do you mean there isn't champagne at this event I'm at? And it's really interesting. And so for me, that generosity of spirit, the kindness, I think I feel so kind, if that makes sense. It's the first thing that I put forward. I think for me also is I've got a much deeper understanding about the power of collaboration. And I think that is a really key to the impact sector. There are 61,000 charities. When anybody says to me they're going to start a charity, I look completely at them and go, why on earth would you? I'm sure there is somebody doing whatever you want to do. And why don't you look at collaboration? Because it's really how you create lasting impact is with collaboration. And we're starting to see that in this sector a lot more. I'm working currently leading the first ever youth homelessness collaboration, which is for Youth Homeless Matters Day. And so the entire sector is, for the first time, collaborating under, one campaign to raise awareness and funds for youth homelessness. Whereas charities will very much work in their own lane in silo, because obviously every bit of funds that they get goes to them. And also when I talk about collaboration in this space, it's collaboration between the public, the private, the corporate and government. I think, when you're talking about youth and in the prevention space, it has to be a collaboration, because otherwise you're not going to correct that lasting impact. So that's really shifted my perspective on collaboration, and just having the courage to think differently. I think a lot of the impact space, they will do things the way that they've always done because it works to a certain extent, but rarely do you see somebody going, but what if we did? And I think the McGrath Foundation are doing that really well. They obviously started as a breast cancer charity, whereas now they are seen as the collector of all charities. And their pink test, for instance, this year was for all charity, not just breast charity. So you see that collaboration, and it's just it works because everybody wins. And I think that's the key for me.
What impact have you seen? You've kind of been working on this big sort of structural stage trying to create lasting impact, which obviously youth homelessness needs. Are you able to see the difference it's made to individual lives, to those lives that you're trying to change?
Yeah, there are 46,000 young people that are homeless tonight in Australia, and that's just the statistics. So if I met a girl a few weeks ago, Amanda, who at 14 decided to leave her home because, quite frankly, it was unsafe. She stayed with friends, she stayed with relatives, but then when all of that ran out, she found herself homeless at 14. And you and I have got 13-year-olds, and I can't even imagine what that would have been like for a 14-year-old. And she told me that at 4:00 every day, she used to have to make the decision of, do I sleep under a lamppost and hope if anything happened to me, somebody would help? Or do I sleep behind a bush and hope to God no one finds me? And that went on for 3 months. And every day she'd get up and go to school because she wanted to become a lawyer. And so she'd get up from wherever she's sleeping rough and go to school, do her education, and then at 4:00 have to make that decision for 3 months. So, and then of course after 3 months she was supported in crisis accommodation. And to see the relief on a young person's face when they don't have to make that decision every day. And it's funny because you and I have known each other for many years of babies, and we talked about that witching hour for many years. Whereas now the witching hour for me is still around 4 to 5 o'clock when I know that young kids who are homeless are making those decisions. And that's, for me, is what drives me to do the work. So when I see a young person that's either in relief or they've gone on to thrive because they've had somewhere safe to stay, I see that every day. And it just, when you talk about what keeps you going, that keeps you going, to know the more bedrooms and the more beds that we can build, the less young people have to have that decision every day.
Well, Penny, I had no say in any of this, but I am so, so proud of you and everything you've done. And it's just such a pleasure to see you in this space making such a big impact. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
You are welcome.
Penny Kaleta, New South Wales State Manager of the Property Industry Foundation. See how easy it is to find people doing great things. You might have a friend just like Penny who's making the world a better place. Why not share their light by emailing me about them? You'll find the address in the episode notes. I'm Siobhan Hunt. I hope I'll see you again on the next episode of A Better World Blueprint.